of the fifth canto is titled "The Prayers Offered by to the Lord by the Residents of Jambudvipa." And earlier on, when the structure of the Jambudvipa was being described, it was explained how the Dweep is divided into 9 varshas. And each of the varsha has a different presiding deity, a form of Krishna. Krishna is presiding deity everywhere, but in different incarnation, and a different prominent devotee. So everybody is a devotee, but they are under the tutelage of the prime devotee. So towards the end of the 17th chapter, we had seen this wonderful praise by Lord Shiva to Sankarshan. So Lord Shiva lives in the innermost part, the center circle of Jambudvipa. The only part that is not adjacent to a river, to an ocean, or well, there are rivers there, but to an ocean. That's the Ilavartha Varsha, and there Lord Shiva worships Lord Shankarshan. So that was the last 8 verses in the 17th chapter. In the 18th chapter that we are doing, we see that there are 6 prayers. So there is prayers to Hayashirsha by Bhadrashrava. There are prayers to Lord Narsimhadev and by Prahlad Maharaj. This is in Harivarsha. Then there is prayers by Lakshmi Devi to Pradyumna or Kamadev. This is in Ketumal Varsa. There is prayers by Vyavastha Manu to Lord Matsya in the Ramyaka Varsha. And currently we are doing the prayers by Aryama to Lord Kurma in the Hiranmaya Varsha. Right, so this gives us the 6 prayers that in the 6 varshas. The 3 that are left is prayers by Bhumi Devi to Varahadev in Uttakuru Varsha, and that will bring us to the end of the 18th chapter. And in the 19th chapter, there are 2 more prayers. There's prayers by Lord Hanuman to Lord Ram in Kimupursha Varsha, and then finally in Bharat Varsha, there is prayers by Narad Muni to Nar Narayan Rishi in the first 15 verses. And after that, the 19th chapter begins to talk about Bhagavad cosmology, Vedic cosmology, the structure of the universe, etc. So as I discussed earlier, we will complete 19th chapter for the sake of completeness. Then we will break out into kind of a mini seminar just on Vedic cosmology. So I'll essentially take do a topical summary of these all the way from 20th to 26th chapter, which is in which Sukadev Goswami talks about the structure of the universe. So we'll still do the chapters, but it's a little difficult to kind of explain it while reading the verses chronologically, because Sukadev Goswami kind of describes it in a slightly different manner based on the question and answers by Parishad Maharaj. So we'll kind of look at it just from a perspective of studying the structure of the universe. So we'll do, I'm guessing it will be about 5 lectures that will be there. And after that, we'll come back, we'll finish the chapters and then move on to the last canto in our Bhakti Vaibhava course, which is the 6th canto. Okay, so we had stopped last time at the 13th verse of the 18th chapter, and Ravi Prabhu, will you be able to read the translations of the verses?
Sure, Prabhuji.
Okay, so
I will open Veda base in the meantime. Yes.
Harir hi sakshat Bhagavan Sharirnam Atma Jasarnam Ivato Yamipsitam Etva Maham Satam Yadi Sajjate Grahe Tada Mahatvam Vyasadamapatya Nama.
$518.1, right, Prabhuji?
So we are in 5:18:13.
13? Okay, 1 second.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Could you hear me? It should be text 22, I think, Prabhu.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We completed until the text 21.
You may be right. Let me double check.
We spoke of the woman who is worshipping the husband, one who cannot
No,
protect
Prabhu, I don't
himself.
think I did these verses. So these are prayers by Lakshmi Devi, right?
Yeah.
Lakshmi Devi, actually, last class you taught us, Prabhuji. You were referring about she praying about her prana is
Yeah.
she can't sustain her life, and she can't referring his name, so she mentioned him as Kamaya instead of Kamadev.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
So
did
we
until
will start
21 verse.
from so Prabhu will start from 22 then, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
You
So
want to
22 is okay. Let's go to 22. It's still concluding verses and prayers by Lakshmi Devi. So let me read the Sanskrit and then Ravi Prabhu, you can do the English. Matpraptaye jesha surasuradya tapayanta ugram tapayendridhiya rite bhavatpada parayana parayananamam vidantyaham tvadhridaya yatojita.
translation? O Supreme Unconquerable Lord, when they become absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyment, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as well as other demigods and demons, undergo severe penances and austerities to receive my benedictions. But I do not favor anyone, however great he may be, unless he is always engaged in the service of your lotus feet. Because I always keep you within my heart, I cannot favor anyone but a devotee.
Okay. So previous verse, Lakshmi Devi had said that to the Lord that you automatically fulfill the desires of a woman who worships your lotus feet in pure love. However, if a woman worships your lotus feet for a particular purpose, you also quickly fulfill her desires. But in the end, she becomes broken-hearted and laments. Right? And then the reason she becomes broken-hearted is that she feels embarrassed that I went to the Lord who can award so much and spiritual benedictions, and I went for material benedictions. He could have given me gold. I went to him asking for iron, so they become broken-hearted. So then Lakshmi Devi says, therefore, one need not worship your lotus feet for some material benefit, right? So that the previous verse, this then talked about those who approach the Lord with material desires. In this verse, Lakshmi Devi is talking about those who approach her with material desires. Right? So she says that um, uh, absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyments, Brahma and Shiva, as well as demigods and demons, undergo severe penances to receive my benediction. But I do not favor anyone, however great he may be, unless he is always engaged in your service. Right? So, what's the difference between the two? That those who approach the Lord with material desires, the Lord fulfills their material desires. Now, they may feel embarrassed about it, but nevertheless, the Lord is fulfilling the material desires. But those who approach Lakshmi Devi with material desires, she does not even fulfill the desires unless she sees that they are somehow connected to Lord Vishnu. So those who approach the material aspect of Lakshmi Devi are essentially approaching Durga Devi. Right? So it's not that Durga Devi does not fulfill. Right? She fulfills, but Lakshmi Devi does not really consider them as fulfillment. Now, what is the difference between the fulfillment by Durga Devi for material desires and the fulfillment by the Lord for material desires? What's your sense? Right. So, in these two verses, important verses for practicing devotees, that previous verse talked about Lord Vishnu fulfilling the material desires of materialistic devotees who approach him. This verse talks about Lakshmi Devi not fulfilling the desires of materialistic devotees. So, how do we understand? What is your sense? What is the difference between the two?
Prabhuji, my understanding, Prabhuji, when Lord grants, it is independent of that particular person's karma. It is beyond, he doesn't need to consider his qualification. Whereas Lakshmi Devi, she is not granting in the sense, because if he is karmically eligible to some extent, that much he may get, but it doesn't mean that she favors.
Okay. Okay. So, you're saying that when somebody approaches Durga Devi, they get according to what the laws of karma would give them. And when somebody approaches Lord Vishnu, he grants them independent of their karmic eligibility. Okay. Good
And
point.
there is an element of permanence too when it comes to Lord, because he's blessed with.
Okay. Okay. Good. Any other thoughts?
Prabhu Hare Krishna. This is Nanda Gopal Das. When we approach Lord Vishnu for material desire, he fulfills, but he also gives the realization of growing up in spiritual life, like a purification, process of purification,
Very good. So
which is not the case.
that's the main difference. That's why Lakshmi Devi is saying, "I don't fulfill." Right. So Durga Devi offered gives. If she's pleased, she gives beyond karma. She's beyond. She's a controller of karma. She can give. She can give whatever she pleases. But Lord Vishnu or Krishna, he, in addition to giving what one is wanting, he also gives what one needs. So that's why she's considering it as a real benediction. Material back and forth, Lakshmi Devi is not even considering. That's why she's saying, I don't even give them. Now she's giving, but she does not even consider, she says, I don't even give them, because I give the person $1 million, the person will spend it and die. What's the point? There's nothing is going to happen. Nothing, like Ravi Prabhu was saying, there's no permanence. Right? You get some opulence, you spend it, it's gone. There's no permanence. So she's saying there's no value to the material interactions with me, but the material interactions with the Lord has value because of the nature of the Lord, that he fulfills the desire in such a way that he spiritualizes the desire. So who does she mention? So she mentions Brahma and Shiva, right? She says that absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyment, Lord Brahma and Shiv undergo severe penances for my benedictions, right? Now, if Brahma and Shiv were to hear to this verse, they will go to Lakshmi Devi and say, what are you saying? That we are absorbed in thoughts of material. enjoyment, not fair. Right? So the acharyas say that Lakshmi Devi is using a nyaya, a logic, in which she says that even if Brahma and Shiva were to approach me for material desires, I will not favor them. So similar mood like Lord Vishnu sometimes refers to Lakshmi Devi, that you are more dear to me even than Lakshmi Devi. I do not care for Lakshmi Devi, who is sitting at my lotus feet, as much as I care for Brahmans. Right? And Lakshmi Devi is sitting at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, hearing him say all this. Right? So she will pinch him and say, "What are you saying? I'm sitting over here, and you're saying you don't care about me?" So Lord Vishnu says, "No, no, no. What I'm saying that even one as exalted as you, I hold dearly in my heart, and I also hold the devotees in the same heart." And Lakshmi Devi says, "Okay, okay, I understand now." So similar point is being made that exalted personalities of the caliber of Brahma and Shiva, even if they were to approach me with material desires, I will not favor them. So in effect, what she's saying is, I do not favor anyone approaching me with material desires, regardless of how great he may be. Now, there is a caveat. What is the caveat? The caveat is that if they are devotees of the Lord, then even if they approach me with material desires, I will favor them. Right? So, she is going back to the point that was made in the previous verse, that the presence of Krishna makes everything spiritual. And with the absence of Krishna, nothing can be spiritual, regardless of how exalted the personality is. Lord Shiva is famous for his austerities. Lord Brahma, creator of the universe. Right? So, very, very exalted personalities. But even if such exalted personalities approach Lakshmi Devi with material desire, she does not favor them. And even if fallen personalities approach Lakshmi Devi, but with approaching her with her connection to Lord Vishnu. So who are these devotees? Who are such devotees who approach Lakshmi Devi with material desires? They are Kama Mishra Bhaktas. Right? So they're devotees, but they have devotees with material desires. Devotees like us. Right? So we are not Shuddha Bhaktas, we are Mishra Bhaktas. There are different categories of Mishra Bhaktas. Some are Karma Mishra, some are Jnana Mishra, some are Yoga Mishra. General category is Kama Mishra, that they have some desires. Right? So we come in that category that we have still not expunged ourselves of our material desires, but we do have, along with that, the desire to take shelter of Krishna. So every endeavor done by devotees, even mixed devotees, meets with ultimate success. For such mixed devotees, either the Lord directly or through Lakshmi Devi, he fulfills their desires. So because the Lord is fulfilling the desire of the mixed devotees, the devotees of the Lord, they also follow his footsteps. So Lakshmi Devi, when somebody comes with mixed Mishra Bhakti with Lakshmi Devi, she says that, well, my Lord, he's kind enough to fulfill the desires. So I should do what he does. So she also does that. And similarly, other devotees, even devotees that are in our contact, or devotees like ourselves also, it's not that we will wait for a person to become a pure devotee before we start entertaining the person. Right? So when we get initiation, then it's not that we are pure devotees, so now we are initiated in the sampradaya. So our Guru Maharaj says that thinks in the same way, that the Supreme Lord is Bhavagraha Janardhan, that he's taking the essence of one's devotion. So we should do also. So this person, he has many material desires, many bad qualities, but somehow he is developed a desire to render devotional service. So I should accept him. Right? Srila Prabhupada would basically, sometimes he would take disciples that people would say they're not qualified. And then Prabhupada would say, when somebody comes to take shelter or take my shelter, I find it very difficult to say no, because I see that there is some spark of sincerity in that. However small it is, there is some spark. And now the flip side is that both the Lord and his devotees, they have nothing to do with those who have nothing to do with the Lord. Right? So ye yathamam prapadyante tamsate bhajami. Then the Lord says that when you approach me, I reciprocate in kind. So if you approach me with desires to develop a relationship with me, I help you develop a relationship. If not, I have nothing to do with you. So the same mood is also absorbed and developed by his devotees. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that those who approach Lakshmi Devi with completely material desires are actually approaching Durga Devi. Right? So she says that, Prabhupada says that although sometimes the materialist becomes very opulent in the eyes of another materialist, such opulence is bestowed upon him by goddess Durga Devi, a material expansion of the goddess of fortune, not by Lakshmi Devi. Those who desire material wealth worship Durga Devi with the following mantra: Dhanam Dehi, Rupam Dehi, Rupavati, Bharyam Dehi. That Durga Devi, please give me wealth, strength, fame, and a good wife, and so on. But even if Durga Devi is pleased and she gives all that, then they are essentially Maya Sukha. It's coming from Maya Devi, and it is Maya Sukha, illusory happiness. And Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj that Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvate Vimudham, that those who work hard for material benefits are Vimudhas, foolish. On the other hand, devotees like Prahlad and Dhruv Maharaj, they achieved extraordinary material opulences. But such opulences were not Maya Sukha. So Prabhupada is making this distinction, that there may be two very rich people. In one case, the wealth is bestowed by Durga Devi. It is Maya Sukha. In the other case, the wealth is bestowed by Lakshmi Devi. And in that case, it is Sukha. It is real happiness. So Srila Prabhupada gives a personal example in the purport. So he says that we have actually seen that one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to enjoy the property of his spiritual master. And the spiritual master, being merciful towards him, gave him the temporary property, but not the power to preach the cult of Mahaprabhu. The special mercy of the power to preach is given to a devotee who does not want anything material from the spiritual master. Right? So Prabhupada refers to this in a very diplomatic way. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj has written a 3-volume biography of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and there he mentions that after Bhaktisiddhanta, or towards the very last years of when he knew that he had limited time and he was going to be leaving. There was already between his two prominent disciples, there was already a fight going on. And so over his life, Bhaktisiddhanta had established 64 mathas. and some of them had become very opulent. So there was a lot of wealth that was coming. There was also a lot of followers. So by his own potency, Bhaktisiddhanta had created this whole Gaudiya Vaishnav movement, and especially one of his disciples, uh, who so he had two main disciples. One of his disciples was more the managerial kind. He was an excellent manager in administrative affairs. Another was more of a preacher. But both of them were actually fighting with one another. So Prabhupada tried to give them money to Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he tried to give them wealth just so that, don't create disturbance in the movement. But he knew that that's what will happen. That's why when he met Prabhupada, then he shared with Prabhupada. He says that there will be fire. He says, Agni Bhaya, there'll be fire in this movement after I leave. And then to him he said that if you have some money, you preach to the West and print books. So when Prabhupada says that to some of his disciples, he bestowed his material wealth. And to some, and Prabhupada, the humility does not talk about himself, but essentially this is Prabhupada. Prabhupada did not get access to any of the wealth of that Bhaktisiddhanta created in Gaudiya Math, right? In fact, after Bhaktisiddhanta's disappearance, he was actually asked to leave the Math. So he did not, far from getting ownership of the Math, he didn't even get a chance to live in the Math because of all the politics. But he said, I'm luckier because his guru gave him the spiritual potency by which he could preach. And of course, for the others too, it became legal case, this and that, and the movement never actually recovered fully from there. Prabhupada also talks about the story of demon Ravana. So this is an example that is often given, that Ravana was trying to enjoy Sita Devi separately from Lord Ram. So this is the materialist mentality, that they try to enjoy wealth separate from the proprietor of wealth, Lord Vishnu. And they try to enjoy Lakshmi Devi separately from Lord Vishnu. So this is the Ravan mentality, that you're trying to enjoy the wealth separate from the true owner of the wealth. And because of that, so Prabhupada says two things happened. One is, he did not actually get Lakshmi Devi, he did not get Sita Devi, but he got Maya Sita, so an illusory copy of Sita Devi. Right? So this is explained to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that when Sita Devi crossed over the Agni Rekha, the fire line created by Lakshman, then at that time Agni Dev, he came and he took the original Sita Devi, and then he replaced her with Vedavati, or rather the incarnation of Vedavati. Vedavati was the Maya Sita. So essentially what Raman got was Maya Sita. That is why when Lord Ram, he killed Ravan and he rescued, he did not even look at Sita Devi, because she was a different woman, and Lord Ram was Ekastri. Right. So Lord Ram could see that this is not, and of course he's omniscient, he always knew, but he did not even look at her. But when she did the Agni Pariksha, then once again the opposite switch happened. That when Maya Sita entered into the fire, then Agni Devi took Maya Sita and Lakshmi Devi reappeared. And then when she came out, then Lord Ram quickly accepted her. So Prabhupada said that's what happens to the materialist, that when they go looking for Lakshmi Devi separate from Lord Vishnu, they essentially get Durga Devi or Maya Sita. And the second point he makes is that the end is invariably material also. That what happened to Ravan, because of his desire to enjoy Sita Devi separate from Lord Ram, he was killed. His whole family was destroyed, his army was destroyed, his kingdom was destroyed. So that's the nature of material endeavors, that eventually it gets destroyed. Now, in this case, Lord Ram personally came and destroyed. But in other cases, it's the potency of the Lord, the time potency of the Lord, karma, the law of karma created by the Lord. By one of these methods, the Lord destroys. Okay, so moving on to the next verse, 23.
So one second, Prabhu. Can you make me again host? Actually, I'm my
Make
workload.
you again host.
I have
Okay, let me do that.
the recording stops.
Okay, you're host now.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to verse 23. So tvam mamapya chut shrishnivanditam karam bhujam yat vadadaya satvatam vivarshimam varenyamaya kaishvara shetam uhitam vibhuriti.
Translation. O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore, your pure devotee worships it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the supreme absolute controller, and no one can understand your motives.
Okay, so this is a really, really sweet verse. It shows um, the humility of a devotee, of a pure devotee, and it shows the loving exchange between a husband and a wife. So, so what is Lakshmi Devi saying over here? That your lotus palm is the source of all benedictions to Lord Vishnu. So therefore, your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their head. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head. Right. So, so imagine the humility of Lakshmi Devi. She is the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu, and she says that. So this is the Shivats, right? No, the Shivats is the golden insignia that the Lord bears on the left side of his chest. So out of humility, she says, I regard this honor merely as a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Right. So, in the mood of a pure devotee, Lakshmi Devi considers herself to be the most fallen. And this is genuine humility, right? And this is not the external that I'm your servant. No, I'm your servant. No, I'm your servant. So not that kind of an exchange, but genuinely Lakshmi Devi is saying, and that uh, uh, I'm actually a fallen devotee. So the Lord might say, how can you say that? I carry you on my chest all the time. The Shiva's mark is essentially Lakshmi Devi, right? So she said, it's false prestige. You just do it to give me some kind of honor, but I actually don't deserve it. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, Vishwanath Chakravarti does that both in his commentary and for the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, that in order to explain slightly uh, difficult concepts, he kind of presents it as a conversation because it is easier for people to follow conversations. It is easier to also develop a thought process. So that so he presents it as a conversation that the Lord says to Lakshmi Devi that how can you say that you are fallen and I favor others, because your good fortune is greater than all others. I eternally carry you on my chest as the Shivatsamar. Then Lord Lakshmi Devi says defiantly, you hold me on your chest as a golden line, but that is my deception. You do this only because you think, seeing the good fortune of my other devotees, may the unintelligent Lakshmi not show hatred for me. Therefore, you allowed me on your chest. This was done without sincerity. Right. Now, here there is a little bit of mood of a wife and a husband. Right. The husband's, sometimes the husband will say that to the wife that you're most beautiful, and the wife will say, oh, just stop it. You know, there are so many other beautiful girls, and I see you look at them, I see you laugh with them, and you're just saying this because you think that I might nag you, or I might harass you. So you're just saying this um, in a deception. So Lakshmi Devi, and this is Vishnu Chakravarti interpolating, Lakshmi Devi is saying that, uh, yeah, you carry me in that golden chair as a golden line on your chest, but only because you think less of me. And Lord Vishnu, how is that? How am I thinking less of you? So, well, because you think that when I will see your genuine interactions with the other devotees, then I will become envious of them, I'll become angry on you. So you think that that may the unintelligent Lakshmi Devi not show hatred for me. So how does the Lord respond? So the Lord responds to Lakshmi Devi that only you are saying this, nobody else is saying that. And Lakshmi Devi says, no, that is not true. In the 11th canto, 14th chapter, 15th verse, you yourself say that, my dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the goddess of fortune, or indeed my own self are as dear to me as you are. Right. So this is the Lord showing his love for Uddhav, where he says that uh, uh, Brahma, Sankarshan, and Lakshmi Devi, they are not as dear to him as Uddhav is. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives several references of the Lord favoring other devotees over Lakshmi Devi, apparently validating the mood of Lakshmi Devi, right? And one may wonder that why does the Lord seem to denigrate his pure devotees like Lakshmi Devi? So there are two ways to understand this. One, that the position of Lakshmi Devi as the pure devotee of the Lord is well known and well established. So the Lord therefore uses this as a reference point to glorify and encourage his other devotees. Right? Uh, so when the Lord says that so supposing the Lord would say to somebody that I love you more than Bhayaridas, and they'll say, who's Bhayaridas? We don't even know how much you love him, or what's the what's the reference point that you're making. But when he says that I love you more than Lakshmi Devi, then the Lord's love for Lakshmi Devi is famous, and Lakshmi Devi's position as a pure devotee is famous. So the Lord is using it as a reference. And just as so the Lord will take liberties to the extent of the surrender of the jiva, right? Um, so does anybody know, or give me maybe two examples of the Lord taking liberties with his pure devotees?
Arjun Prabhuji.
Arjun. So the Lord put Arjun into illusion so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Somebody else, give me the second example.
Parikshit Maharaj.
Very good. Parikshit Maharaj. So this is the Lord putting Parikshit Maharaj under illusion so that he places the serpent around the neck of Shaumik Rishi, and the Bhagavatam was spoken. And so the Lord takes liberties with his pure devotees because they are surrendered to him. He's taking liberties with the gopis all the time because they are fully because they're fully surrendered. So similarly, the understanding is that when the Lord is seemingly denigrating Lakshmi Devi, in the same mood, he's saying he's taking liberties. Like um, um, a mother's affection for the child is well known, right? But sometimes the mother might chastise her own child in favor of an outside child, right? And not because the positions have been there, but in order to instill love and affection in the other child. That look, this is my own child and dear to me, but for you I am chastising my child, so you can understand how much I love you. But because the child is secure in its position, it does not really hamper that relationship.
Is it like
Then
Chota Haridas and Mahaprabhu?
it is like Chota. That is another example, right? Mahaprabhu used the example of Chota Haridas to demonstrate, what is the dangers of associating with an opposite sex, especially for a sannyasi, right? And the understanding is, if Mahaprabhu was actually upset with Chota Haridas, then it said that after Haridas left his body, then Mahaprabhu allowed him to come and serenade him. So he would sing songs to him, Mahaprabhu would appreciate it. And so Mahaprabhu would not have allowed him to do that, right? That's another example. Now, another understanding here is that when the Lord is diminishing the position of Lakshmi Devi, then he is referring to her material aspect, or he is referring to the materialistic devotees who approach Lakshmi Devi, right? So either case, it refers to uh, Durga Devi. So just like Lakshmi Devi herself, she is denigrating those who approach her for material desires. The Lord is doing the same, right? So when he says those who approach my consort with material desires, he's not talking about Lakshmi Devi anymore. He's really talking about the material aspect of Lakshmi Devi or Durga Devi. So Srila Prabhupada has a lot of references in the purport. I'll quickly go through them. So in 11, 14, 15, the Shastras describe that Lord Vishnu is more inclined towards his devotees than towards his wife, who always remains on his chest, right? And then 10, 9, 20, the Supreme Lord can award liberation to anyone, showed more mercy towards the gopis than to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body. Then 1047, 16, 60, the gopis received benediction from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi nor the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly kingdom could attain. Then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that no one can receive the real favor of the Lord without following the footsteps of the gopis. Even the goddess of fortune could not receive the same favor as the gopis, although she underwent severe austerities and penances for many years. Mahaprabhu discusses this point with Venkat Bhatt in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that you worship goddess of fortune Lakshmi, who always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste in the creation. However, my Lord is Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna? Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha and for a long time accepted vows and regulative principles and performed unlimited austerities. So Venkat Bhatt replied that Krishna and Narayana are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. They are very pleasing for Krishna Shaktis. Since Krishna and Narayana are both the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna did not break her vows of chastity. Rather, it is in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. The goddess of fortune considered that a vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she would also enjoy the benefits of the rasa dance. If she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking about it? And then the conversation goes on, and essentially, then Lord Chaitanya convinces. The Lord Chaitanya's mood here was to convince. So Venkat Bhatt was the head priest of Srirangam, and they worship Ranganath, Lord Vishnu, and Lakshmi. And he was from Shri Sampradaya, so their mood is very strong in the mood of worship of Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi Devi. And Lord Chaitanya, while accepting that as bona fide, wanted to show to him that there is something higher than that also. That Lord Vishnu is actually expansion of Krishna, and Lakshmi Devi is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. Okay, let's move on to. So this is essentially the end of the prayers by Lakshmi Devi. So we move on to verse 24, and it's in prose. So Ravi Prabhu can read the translation.
Sure, Prabhuji. Sukadeva Goswami continued. In Ramyaka Varsha, where Vaivasvat Manu rules, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Lord Matsya at the end of the last era, the Chakshusa Manvantara. Vaivasvat Manu now worships Lord Matsya in pure devotional service and chants the following mantra.
So the next 5 verses are prayers by Vaivastha Manu to Lord Matsya in the Ramyaka Varsha. So the Ramyaka Varsha is one of the Varshas in Jambudvipa. And here the prominent devotee is Vaivastha Manu. And the worshipable form of the Lord Krishna that is worshipped here is Matsyadev. So just I guess a side point that Lord Matsya, he appears twice in this kalpa. So the first time he appears is during the Swayambhavu Manvantara. And at that time, he kills the demon Hayagriva. So Hayagriva is the horse-headed demon, and he steals the Vedas from Lord Brahma. Right, and Lord Matsya appears at the time, and he kills the demon Hayagriva. He rescues the Vedic literature and restores it to Brahma. Then the second appearance of Matsyadev is at the end of Chakshusha Manvantara, and there he appeared and bestowed his mercy on King Satyavrata. Right, so this is written in the 8th canto, chapter 24. Srila Prabhupada writes that once at the end of the previous kalpa, so kalpa is a day of Brahma, right? So once at the end of the previous kalpa, so this is not the present day, but the previous day of kalpa, a demon named Hayagriv wanted to take the Vedic knowledge away from Lord Brahma at the time of the annihilation. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the incarnation of fish at the beginning of the Swayambhu Manu and at the period of Swayambhu Manu and saved the Vedas. Then, during the reign of Chakshusha Manu, there was a king known as Satyavrata, who was a great pious ruler. To save him, the Lord appeared as a fish incarnation for the second time. Then Satyavrata, so this is the incarnation that we are most familiar with, the growing fish incarnation. That Satyavrata, he rescued a small fish from a pond, and the fish kept growing and growing and growing. He put him in the ocean, became too big for the ocean. And then Satyavrata says that you're the personality of Godhead. No fish can grow to such. And then Lord Matsya tells him that the end of the existence is there. This is the end that happens at the end of the Manvantara. So this is going to happen. So the whole thing about the boat being the Saptrishis, and then the same personality of Satyavrata later appeared as the son of the sun god. Right. So sun god is Vivaswan, and his son is known as Vaivastha Manu, also known as Shadadev. Right. And he was established as the Manu. He is the current Manu. Little bit more details about what was it that happened during Swayambhu Manu's pastime that caused Matsya to appear. So this is in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, and there it is mentioned that once Agastha Muni, he cursed Swayambhu Manu, which caused the annihilation to happen in the middle of the Manvantara. So this annihilation has been described in the Matsya Purana, that during the Chakshusha Manvantara, the annihilation began suddenly by the will of the Lord. And in Vishnu Dharmotra, the story is narrated by Vajra, narrated to Vajra by Markandeya Rishi. So generally the annihilation takes place at the end of the Kalpa, or at the end of the Manvantara. So at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, the Supreme Lord, by the will of the Supreme Lord, through the curse of Agastha Muni. And then the Acharyas have more in-depth commentaries about it. According to some Acharyas, that some Acharyas, especially Sridhar Swami, he does not accept the annihilation as a real annihilation. He says that just like Markandeya Rishi was shown these annihilations in a vision by Lord Shiva, it was not actually happening. Similarly, the vision of Shadadev, the annihilation that happened in the vision of Shadadev was by the Maya potency of the Lord. So according to Sridhar Swami, this the second annihilation did not actually happen, but it was displayed to Satyavrata in a dream. So just interesting details I thought I'll share. But these set of prayers are essentially prayers by Vaivastha Manu to Lord Matsya in Ramyaka Varsha. Okay, moving on to verse 25. If you can read the translation.
Sure, Prabhuji. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is pure transcendence. He is the origin of all life, bodily strength, mental power, and sensory ability. Known as Matsyavatara, the gigantic fish incarnation, he appears first among all the incarnations. Again, I offer my obeisances unto him.
So Prabhupada in the purport, he quotes the famous Das Avatar Shrot by Jayadev Goswami. Pralaya prayode jale dhritvan asivedam vihita vahitra chaitram akhedeyam keshavadrita meena sharira jay jagadish hari. So Prabhupada writes that during the time of this annihilation, Lord Krishna appeared as a gigantic fish to protect the the Vedas. Therefore, Manu addresses Lord Matsya as Mukhyatma, the first incarnation to appear. Fishes are generally considered a mixture of the modes of ignorance and passion, but when the Lord appears as a fish, then he is transcendental, right? So the point is that whether the Lord appears as a boar, as a tortoise, as a horse, as a fish, as a lion, regardless of whatever form he appears, he is always Shuddha Sattva, is pure transcendence. Okay, next verse. Antar Bhischakila Lokapale Lokapalake Adrastarupo Vicharasyurusvanaha Saishwarastvam Yedam Vasanyam Namna Yatha Darumyanaraha Striyam.
Translation. My dear Lord, just as a puppeteer controls his dancing dolls and a husband controls his wife, your Lordship controls all the living entities in the universe, such as the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Although you are in everyone's heart as the supreme witness and commander and are outside everyone as well, the so-called leaders of societies, communities, and countries cannot realize you. Only those who hear the vibration of the Vedic mantras can appreciate you.
So this glorification is related to the inconceivable aspect of the Lord. That by sensory perception or by mental extrapolation, it's difficult. And here only one attribute is given, that the Lord is inside and outside. But in this way, like how can somebody be inside and outside at the same time? So when people get confused by this, then they give up, right? They say no point in understanding it. So the only way to understand is by taking shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that this verse talks about the dependence of everyone on Krishna and the supreme independence of the Lord. So even for the most exalted personalities, like the Devas, the protectors of the directions, the Lord is not visible. Right? Even when the demigods go to pray to Lord Vishnu on the banks of Shirodakshai Vishnu or Shirodakshai Sagar, this is the one that's in Dhruvaloka, they don't really see the Lord. They stand on the shore, they pray, they hear a voice, they hear some instructions, and they come back. So when the prayer is being said in this mood, then one might say that if nobody can conceive the Lord, maybe he does not exist. If great personalities are not able to conceive, maybe he does not exist. So then the point is making, no, that is not true. So Vyavastha Manu now clarifies that the Lord is present in the Vedas. So what does that mean? It means that the words of the Vedas. So the words of the Vedas also control everyone by the designations as Brahman, Kshatriya, determined by the modes. And the Lord gives protection to those who take shelter of Him. So in this way, everyone is controlled by the Lord, just as a puppet is controlled. So for non-devotees, the puppet is controlled by the ropes of the gunas, the modes of material nature. And for the devotees, the robes are made of prema. The robes are made of love, right? So the point that Vaistamunu is making, that because the Lord is inconceivable, one needs to take shelter of the Vedas to understand the Lord. And to establish the credibility of the Vedas, he speaks about the Varnas, because the Varnas are empirically observable. That the people, depending on the modes, are Brahmanical, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and that has already been stated in the Vedas. So that means the Vedas are speaking things that are that can be empirically verified, which means that those things that the Vedas speak that cannot be empirically verified are also true. And so this is essentially extrapolation. That the Vedas speak about things, you can go and verify it and say, yes, the Veda is accurate, what else is there? And the Vedas speak about things that you cannot empirically verify. But since they have already established the credibility, then you will be inclined to believe it. So what else do the Vedas say? The Vedas talk about the supreme position of the Lord. The Vedas talk about how everyone is controlled, either directly or indirectly by the Lord. So Prabhupada speaks about how everyone is under the control of the Lord, exactly like dancing dolls are controlled by a puppeteer, or a woman is controlled by her husband. Right. And here again, Prabhupada writes a little bit, some of the Prabhupada's purport are strongly speaking about genders. So Prabhupada says that a woman is compared to a doll because she has no independence. She should always be controlled by a man. Still, due to false prestige, a class of women want to remain independent. What to speak of women? All living entities are female and therefore dependent on the Supreme Lord as Krishna, as he explains in Bhagavad Gita. The living entity is never independent. He is always dependent on the mercy of the Lord. The Lord creates the social divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudra, and ordains that they follow the rules and regulations suited to the particular position. In this way, all members of the society always remain under the control of the Lord. Right. So this is the second understanding of the division of the Vedas, that one can either be controlled directly by the Lord or indirectly through the Varnashram system. Right. If somebody is not surrendering to the Lord, then Prabhupada says that they surrender to the order that has been created by the Lord. Now, somebody might say, I don't even surrender to the Varnashram system, like currently, right? Then they're essentially surrendering to the laws of karma, surrendering to the laws of nature that have been created by the Lord. But one way or the other, one is always surrendering. Okay, I'll do one more verse and then we'll pause for discussion. Verse 27. Yamalokapala kilamatsarajvara hetva yatanto viprathak samatyacha patum nasheko dvipadas Sare stanu yadatra drishyate.
Translation. My dear Lord, from the great leaders of the universe, such as Lord Brahma and other demigods, down to the political leaders of this world, all are envious of your authority. Without your help, however, they could neither separately nor concertedly maintain the innumerable living entities within the universe. You are actually the only maintainer of all human beings, of animals like cows and asses, and of plants, reptiles, birds, mountains, and whatever else is visible within this material world.
So remember, these prayers are being spoken by Vyavastamanu, who himself is a controller. Right? Vyavastamanu is appears once in one mantra, each Manu, and they're considered to be the controllers of, at least they consider control of the Bhumandal, not the entire universe, but the Bhumandal, or the three worlds, Bhubhava Swaha, the three worlds. So somebody might say, but you yourself are a powerful controller. And then there are other powerful controllers like Indra and Surya and Chandra who also protect the universe. So how can you say that everything is dependent on the Lord? So to this implicit objection, Vyavastha Manu speaks this verse, and he says that it is true that there are many, many powerful controllers, like such as Brahma, other demigods, like down to the political leaders. Right? So at one point there's Brahma who's controlling the universe, and the political leaders who have smaller constituencies, but they all operate under the authority of the Lord. So then Krishna might say that what is the proof of that? Or in this case, Matsya, Lord Matsya might say, what is the proof? Maybe you're saying this just to flatter me. What is the proof that they're all operating under my authority? So Vyavastha Manu says the proof is that they are all envious of you. Right? Now it may seem odd that Vyavastha Manu, himself a great personality and himself a controller, he's using such strong condemnation for great personalities like himself and Indra, etc. So because he is also in that category, there is no fault in that condemnation, right? Because he is including himself also. It's like one of those things. I remember I'd gone to taken a course on public speaking, and one of the things in public speaking they say is it's always good to punctuate your speech with jokes, right? Now, one of the big things they caution is that don't make jokes about other ethnicities. So, like, I am a Hindu or I am an Indian. So they said it's okay for you to make jokes about Indians. That, Indians love to, whatever, they love to drive Toyota cars, or they love to clip coupons. So, everybody will laugh, you will laugh, even the Indians will laugh because you're part of the group. But as an Indian, if you stand up and start making fun of Americans or Jewish people, that becomes a slur, right? You cannot do that. So Vyavastha Manu, when he is talking about the powerful controllers being envious to you, he himself is a powerful controller. So Swajati. So he's saying people like me. So I also, people like me, they are envious of you. And why does one person become envious of another person? Because the person is subservient to him. Right? So a person will not get envious, a king will not get envious of a beggar, but the minister will be envious of the king because he's under the control of the king. So uh, uh, so Manu, he gives that as a first example, the first reasoning to his statement. And then the second aspect of dependence is also mentioned. He says that without your sanction, they cannot do anything. So this is more from an actual operational perspective. Like the first was from an emotional perspective. The fact that they display envy indicates that they're subservient to you. Now he's saying is that keep the envy side aside. The Lord may say, don't accept their envious to me. So keep it aside. But whatever that they are doing, they're only doing it by your sanction. So the Lord says, what is it that they're doing? Said they're maintaining the innumerable entities in the universe, like cows and asses and plants and reptiles. But all of it they are doing only because you are permitting them to do it. So that clearly means that it is only with your singular sanction. Prabhupada writes that sometimes so-called swamis are very eager to feed poor people, thinking of them to be Daridra Narayan, the Lord's incarnation as beggars. They prefer to serve the manufactured Daridra Narayan than the original Supreme Narayan. They say, don't encourage the service to Lord Narayan. It is better to serve the starving people in the world, right? So this is a very common, at least in India, even in the West, criticism of ISKCON, that you worship the deity so opulently, right? I remember once, and this was just like different moods. The deities were dressed very opulently. In our temple, the deities were dressed very, very opulently, and there was a person who was uh, a newcomer, and I was kind of encouraging him, and I said, um, he mentioned that these deity dresses look very beautiful, and I said, yeah, they're specially made from this and that, and we get them from Vrindavan. And then he says that, isn't it better to use all that money that you spend on these dresses to feed the poor people? That way you will actually get some real benefit. You're just putting those dresses over there, right? And Prabhupada addresses this in this purport. And the point that he makes is that you may be able to feed 100 people or 200 people, 2,000 people. But if you worship the Lord, then you're serving the entire humanity. And not only from now, but for what? For all times to come. Right? The famous example of watering the roots and the leaves getting watered. And Prabhupada says, Eko Bhunam Yo Vidati Kaman. That is why. Why is that true? Because there is the one Lord who is fulfilling the desires of everyone. So by serving that Lord, automatically the desires of everyone are being served. So you may take away the money for that dress and feed 100 people. Right? But if you worship the Lord opulently and the Lord is pleased, then through the mercy of the Lord, millions of people can be benefited. Prabhupada is an example of that, right? The Lord bestowed his mercy on him, and through that mercy, long after Prabhupada left the planet, people continue to benefit. That is the advantage of serving the Lord. Okay, so let me pause over here and see if there's any discussion in terms of what we spoke about or anything else that you have in mind.
In one conversation, Prabhu, with I think I'm forgetting now the person in Bombay morning walk conversation. He was talking about the similar topic, poor and rich. You have to feed the poor rather than. And Prabhupada says, who is poor? Everybody is poor. There is nobody is not poor. Some people are poor for spirituality, some people are poor materially, but everybody is poor. So we have to feed everybody. So Prabhupada would say something like that. It's not, there's no discrimination when it comes to spirituality. Everybody is poor. That's what Prabhupada's statement is.
Yeah, so this whole thing about philanthropy versus spirituality, I mean, the debates can get heated on that. And that not just in terms of wealth, but effort and focus. Many people say, why establish so many temples? Establish a dharmshala over there. There's so many people sleeping on the roads, and why spend so much wealth in maintaining temples and pujaris and deities, etc. So the difference is the perspective. That yes, it feels good to be able to feed 100 people. It feels good to give shelter to somebody who's lying cold on the street and gets a house. But Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita, he describes this as blowing on the boil of a skin, that you're giving temporary relief. And actually, Prabhupada says better to do both. If the person is hungry, give them food, but also give them Krishna consciousness. And he never said that, let them go hungry. He said, no, give them food if they're hungry, and see if you can also give them Krishna consciousness at the same time, which essentially is now becoming more and more as a defining characteristic of ISKCON, to subsume um, uh, this charity, subsume this charity within spirituality.
So, Prabhuji, the aspect of denying the philanthropy is only in terms of having the clarity with respect to intention, Prabhuji. It's not that we shouldn't do philanthropy. Is that the idea?
That is the idea, that if philanthropy is linked to Krishna, then it becomes devotional service, right? There are so many people who are who are donating so opulently. I mean, like we are building this temple, right? So many people are donating for that. Is philanthropy, but it is connected to Krishna. Some of the people who are donating are do not even consider themselves devotees of Krishna. They're donating for various reasons. They're charitable by nature, or they want to see their names here and there, etc. They're donating for different reasons, but knowingly or unknowingly, it's being connected to Krishna. It's in the category of devotional service.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, we'll stop over here. Thank you so much. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anand Koti Vaishnavind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanande. Thank you very much.